Hey everybody, welcome to the ReVision Experience. I'm Sean.
I'm Miley.
And today we are talking about what to do with these critiques that you've gotten. So you got people who have come back to you and said, this is great, these are things you need to work on. Now what?
Right, so you've survived it, which is not like, it's no small thing.
Yeah.
So first thing I would say is let all of this information just sit for maybe at least 24 hours, maybe 48 hours. Just don't do anything. Don't do anything
drastic. Yeah.
Just maybe let the comments just kind of simmer around in here so that, first of all, maybe your anger can subside if you're feeling angry about some
or
of the
frustrated,
things. Or frustrated,
yeah.
I'm the worst writer in the world. Why am I doing this? That's totally normal to feel that way once you get feedback.
Yeah.
But let's let that all settle and then see what comes to the top, right?
Yeah.
That we can actually start dealing with and that needs to be dealt with.
Once you've given this stuff some time, start to think through your mind about two different things. One, what were some common critiques that multiple people brought up? That's a pretty good hint.
Yeah.
That issue is something you probably need to at least pay attention to.
Right.
Not saying that you got to do exactly what those multiple people said.
Right.
But if readers are coming back to you with common feedback, that's probably important feedback that you need to keep in mind. So that's one thing. Another thing that you want to pay attention to are things that stick out in your mind.
Right.
So if you come away from your critique sessions and there are a few things that just are kind of niggling in the back of your brain, even after 2 or 3 days, those are probably issues that you also want to consider addressing in your manuscript.
I think probably everyone will have at least one comment or one issue that comes up that when you read it or someone brought it up, you went, yeah, I thought so. Mm-hmm. Because maybe you're different than I am. Maybe you out there are different than I am. But I think in some ways we're kind of sneaky. We try to slide by, right? Yeah. I could probably get by without adding very much detail to this scene.
Or you throw in something clever.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, this is really clever.
Right. And it's not. Anytime you see a comment that hits a nerve, that you're like, I got caught, you know?
Yeah.
You probably want to address that.
Yeah.
Because it's showing up. Even though you thought you were good enough to hide it or it was clever enough to get by, it wasn't. And so you want to address those things.
Yeah. Try not to hold on to things too tightly, especially at this phase, because sometimes the things that we love the most about our first draft are actually things like what Miley's talking about that don't resonate with the reader, that stick out a little bit. And so if multiple people come back and say, I really think you should cut this, but you're holding on to that super tight, it makes it really hard to do what's best for your manuscript. So, continue through this critiquing process, really holding your manuscript loosely, and try to keep an open mind about what are some good changes to make that will really improve your work.
I think I read an article once and they talk about that as holding things as precious. Don't let this be precious. Don't let this line be precious. Don't let this character be precious. Like, everything has to be at least somewhat chopping block material. Like, you have to be willing to cut what needs to be cut. And next week we're going to be talking about courage. And that's what's needed for those sorts of things.
Yeah.
For those sorts of,
Yeah. Ouch.
whatever that means.
When you do that, it just makes me think, ouch.
the dropping of the axe. It's not easy, but it's often necessary. Last thing I would say, you can absolutely ignore a comment.
Yes, and don't feel like because someone has brought something up that you absolutely have to make that change. It is totally within your realm, your scope, to not make a change that's suggested to you. Now, I will say a lot of your decision making around this will eventually come down to how much you trust the reader. So, as we do more and more weeks, you'll start to get a sense for which of these critique partners you feel more open to their feedback than others, or you realize that they get what you're trying to do.
Yes, they're your reader.
Yes.
Right? Because not everybody in the group is your reader. So they're your reader.
Yeah. And so once you start to realize that, you'll probably have a better feel for whose feedback you don't have to necessarily implement all the time, and whose feedback you really do want to take seriously. And every time they bring something up, I talk about this group a lot, a group that I met with last year. And these were two writers who are both super strong writers. Like they know what they're doing. They're very well read. I implemented probably 90% of the things that they suggested because I have total respect for them. And I know that
they're
the
your
motive,
readers.
they're my readers, and their motives were good. Like, I think a lot of times you kind of feel like, well, is this person just trying to find stuff? Like, are they just trying to knock me down a notch or whatever? And I just had total trust that they knew what I was trying to do and that they were willing to come along beside me and suggest things that would improve my manuscript. So, as we get further along in the process, you're going to resonate with certain critique partners, and it will always be down to you whether or not you are going to take the suggestions.
It will, because at the end of the day, like we said last week, this is your manuscript. You are the author, and you get to make the decisions. You get to decide what stays and what goes. And that's the beauty of it, of having made something all your own. So people can have opinions about it, but at the end of the day, you're the one who decides. So embrace that.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, this is such a rewarding part of the process. You wrote your first draft, which was a huge accomplishment. You're now starting to get feedback from other people. Embrace it. Enjoy it. Don't let it stress you out. Don't let it stir up all these old voices about how you're not a good writer, you can't do this story, like all of that. Enjoy the process. Take from it what you can.
Because that's what it's for. It's here to make you a better writer. So let it do that. Like you're saying, don't let this other baggage start getting in the way to where you can't use it for what it's meant to be used for, which is to make us better at this craft that we're all pursuing, you know? And this is how we do it. So let this do its work in you.
Yeah. Until next time.
Keep writing.